Viruses. If you think a big, scary monster is dangerous, wait until you find out what a teeny little virus can do to you. Take Ebola virus, something that makes grown men shake with fear. Within 7 days of exposure, it will have destroyed most of the body's blood vessels. People bleed to death through every opening in their bodies, even their eyeballs. The disease has been limited to remote areas in Africa, and the happy news is that this particular virus is not a good traveler. Outbreak. No doubt about it. Viruses are troublemakers big time. There are more than 4,000 of them, and they bring us colds, the mumps, AIDS, and even some cancers that invade our bodies. And it's hard to figure out a way to combat them, since they're slippery little devils, able to mutate slightly, always changing just a little bit, enough to invade our efforts to outsmart them. How do you think they do their dirty work? Let's get up close and personal with the virus. Invasion of the body snatchers. They're airborne, almost invisible chemicals coated with protein. They can sneak into your cells, grab the plans to the cell structure, and start changing things. Instead of working normally, the cells start making copies of the enemy invader. It's kind of like sneaking over to the photocopier and making 1,000 copies of your science teacher without his topi. Then, circulating it all over the school. Think of the chaos. Think of the pain when you get caught. That's a virus for you. If you took 2 million viruses and told them to stand in a straight line, they would take up less than half of an inch. They need help to do mischief, though. Help that comes when they move into another living cell. You might say they're freeloaders, using up the host's cell's food and energy. Each virus has a coat made up of protein called a viral capsid. Inside the protein coat is a dab of nucleic acid that holds the virus's genetic material. The virus sneaks into bodies through one or more of our handy openings, mouths and noses mostly. Once inside, the virus spreads healthy cells and injects its nucleic acid, which is used as a blueprint for building more virus. Then, like that out-of-control copying machine, the captive cell starts making copy after copy after copy of the virus until it finally runs out of space and bursts apart. Smallpox, chickenpox, cold sores, the flu, warts, the destruction, and vandalism never stop when you are a virus. If you touch someone with a wart, chances are you'll find that that virus has hitched a ride onto your body and soon you might have a wart. But you don't have to make a direct physical contact to become infected. One sneeze from a person with a cold and millions of viruses particles go spraying in the air. If you don't believe me, see page 116. You might find yourself with a cold too. Animal and insect bites can deliver hefty doses of viruses that can kill, such as rabies and yellow fever. And viruses such as hepatitis can hang out in the shellfish we eat. So how do you stop them? Fight, fight, fight. Our bodies aren't going to take an invasion like that without a struggle. This is war. So the body's immune system calls up a bunch of natural defenses. Out march the antibodies, which are produced by the white blood cells. These specialized killers rip the virus apart or blast the affected host cells. With nowhere to live, the virus finally dies. Our bodies have another protein trick up their sleeves. Once certain viruses have done their dirty work in a body, they'll never be back again. It's called immunity. And it's why we get chicken pox only once in a lifetime. Let's say that a big, ugly dog moves next door. The first time you try to pet it, it snarls like a banshee and tries to take a small chunk out of your rear end. So the next time you have to walk past that growing hunk of foul fur, you are prepared. You blow a dog a whistle that sends him cowering into his doghouse with paws over his ears. You fight back because you recognize the danger when you see it. Your body works in the same way. It recognizes an evil virus the second time around, knows it'll cause trouble, and attacks it before it has a chance to do the mischief again. So why do we get the common cold over and over and over? Because that runny nose and tingling throat is not caused by one virus, but by at least 200 very different viruses. So you'll never get sick from exactly the same cold virus twice. Still, even though you're very different when you're blowing your raw red nose for the umpteenth time in a day, it doesn't feel very different. Our only lucky break in the war against viruses comes from the fact that viruses tend to have trouble surviving in dirt or dust and can't live for about more than 48 hours without a host cell. This will only hurt for a second. Annual checkup time. The doctor is coming at you with a needle the size of the Empire State Building. But inside that vial lies something that'll keep certain viruses from ever taking hold in your body. Vaccines provide the same immunity you would develop if you had a disease already. But they provide it before you ever get the disease. A vaccine delivers a slightly modified version of the virus, different enough to keep us from getting sick, but similar enough so our bodies will go into attack mode, and the next time something like that appears, our bodies can now fight off those deadly invasions. Lucky for us, several of these nastiest viruses have only conquered by vaccines. Polio, which can cause paralysis and make the muscles waste away, has been almost completely eliminated from human populations. Smallpox, which wiped out 3/4 of the Native American population when they were first exposed to it, no longer exists in the world, except for some heavily guarded samples that are kept for research by the U.S. and Russian government. Measles, mumps, and rubella, commonly thought as childhood diseases, are now also, for most of the part, a living of the past, thanks to vaccines. And even though these diseases are not life-threatening, in most cases, they're not much fun either. Doctors are trying to develop a vaccine for the dreaded disease AIDS. It's caused by a virus called human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV for short, which attacks the body's natural defense system. It's in weak-ended state. The body can't fight off diseases caused by bacteria, fungi, or other viruses. But doctors are working hard to find drugs that will make the immune system stronger. New treatments are offering hope for almost normal life to people living with the disease. Only bacteria. You can't see them. You can't hear them. You can't taste them. But oh boy, they can make you smelly or sick. The good, the bad, and the stinky. Bacteria are tiny living things known as microorganisms that cover up the entire earth. They live in dirt and deep in the sea. They float throughout the air and thrive in the bodies of every living thing. They are not plants, not animals, not fungi. Instead, they belong to a group of living things called Monera. Most bacteria are so small that if you put 10,000 of them in a row, they would measure about only an inch. and getting your hands on 10,000 bacteria is a snap. One bacterium can divide into 1,000,000 bacteria in a half of a day. Of course, there always has to be an exception to every rule. A monster bacteria has just been discovered lurking in the reeking, sulfurous muck of the ocean bottom near the coast of Namibia in Africa. These big guys, big enough that you can see them without using a microscope. Each is about the size of a period at the end of this sentence. That may not seem huge, but in a bacteria world, that's a King Kong of a germ. What do bacteria love to do most of all? Munch. They munch on the oil in your skin, the particularly diseased dinner of our guts. They'll invade the flesh of a dead cow and the grease in your kitchen drain. They'll even take out a half-mile wide oil spill. Most bacteria are totally cool little microbes. Some turn raw sewage into chemicals that help plants grow. Then there are other ones that specialize in devouring grease, eating pond scum, or lapping up those huge oil spills. Good bacteria, such as these, are actually sold by laboratories around the world. Other good bacteria can help break down animal hides so that they can be turned into shoes, handbags, briefcases, and those cool motorcycle jackets. Other ones are used to make vaccines, medicines, yogurt, and even tea. Then there are these geeky bacteria, like the ones that create a stink in our armpits. That's not exactly harmful, but they sure are annoying. Finally, there are bully bacteria that can make us sick by causing food poisoning, strep throat, pneumonia, diarrhea, and other big-time problems. Bacteria come in different shapes, like the bullies at school. There are tall, skinny ones, round, pudgy ones, spiral ones, and curvy ones. And just like the school bullies, they can make your life miserable. Where the bad guys hide. One of the main ways that bully bacteria are spread is throughout bad hygiene. Translation: not washing your hands after you go to the bathroom. Remember that half of what your body's getting rid of when you poop is bacteria. Some of it's harmless, but some of it's not. As you wipe, bacteria could leap into your hands. Once in your hands, the bacteria start to reproduce like crazy. If a person who works at the local burger joint doesn't wash, those bacteria creep into everything he handles. The burgers and the fries and the milkshakes. And before you can say, I think I'm gonna hurl, you and anyone else who had the bad luck to eat there that day will be tossing cookies. Other times, sickness starts with bacteria that live aboard one animal make the move to another. A perfectly healthy chicken's guts are crawling with salmon bacteria that help the chicken digest. And that chicken But when the same bacteria gets into our intestines, disaster can strike. See, the baddest bacteria in town. But you say, it's not like I'm kissing a chicken. True, but chances are that you are eating one. Undercooked chicken can give you salmonella. Even eating the uncooked egg that has been beaten into brownie batter can make you pretty sick. So don't lick that spoon. Some non-living things, such as air conditioners, can hide bacteria cities. Certain types of these microbes adore the warm wetness that's created by air conditioner motors. And the air blowing from them propels millions of bacteria into the air and the lungs of whoever happens to be in the room.